Hey everyone, welcome to the third and final part of my little Dune model building trilogy. I've previously done the Harkonnen Ornithopter and the Spice Harvester, and now it's time to finally build and paint the Atreides Ornithopter. And this is a kit by Meng, a miniature kit. Doesn't actually specify the scale, but very tiny, as you can see. So love the front view of the Ornithopter there. It's just tiny profile compared to the length of the side profile there. And the build instructions are on the back of the box. As you can see, it goes together really simply and quickly, and this will just be a painting and weathering exercise. As with the previous two kits. A bit of detail about the kit on the side there. Right, so let's get started. And so here's all the plastic, various sprues there. Got the wings, stand and base, tiny little decal sheet, and landing gear. Right, so not much to cut off here, so what I'm going to do is remove all of the parts and then start putting it together. And now just to clean up some of these parts, just with a sanding stick. Yeah, just where this sprue was cut off. Little nubs. Just sanding those back. These Meng kits are usually very good quality, build-wise. So you don't get much in the way of flash or mold lines or any other bits and pieces that are really nasty to clean up. And now for the wing roots. Just a ball socket that clips into a hole, which in theory allows you to move the wings around, but we shall see. It's not the easiest to push these in. Okay, so I've managed to get the top four in, but the bottom four are proving to be a bit more challenging. I've got this one in, but I can't twist it around to the right orientation, so I have to pull this one out. And pushing them in kind of exceeds the pain tolerance of my thumb, because it's just won't go in. So do I make the ball smaller or the hole larger? Because once you do get it, squeeze it in, as soon as you move it, it just pops out again. So, might try filing away the hole a little bit. I mean the ball. It's usually always the smallest bits that cause the most trouble. That seems better. Right, there's 3 to go. Okay, so that's those in. Let's put the cockpit back on. And time for the landing gear. Right, now to finally put all the wings on. So because any of this is glued, you've got the option of folding these back and then pivoting on the ball joint at the socket, which hopefully isn't too restrictive. Now I think this explains why the Harkonnen Ornithopter had 2 spare wings. That's because that needed 6 in total and this needs 8. So I think it was exactly the same sprue of wings for each kit. So instead of just making 6 for the other one, they just used the same sprue for this, which had 8, so you had 2 left over. So I just thought they were giving you spares, but they were just being economical, I guess. Alright, so that's all the wings on. It's going to require a little bit of fiddling just to get all those lined up. Right, let's get them on the stand. Alright, so there it is, complete. Now, there's spare landing gear for the legs in the extended position, of course, but I'm just going to leave those off for now and get on with painting. Okay, so just before I start painting, I think we're going to glue the cockpit on, because as I was trying to remove the stand, this little piece here which connects the landing gear tried to come off, and as I was trying to stop it from coming off, I accidentally pulled off the cockpit, so that's just going to get a little bit annoying. So I'm just going to stick that on there. Bit of Tamiya extra thin cement. And hopefully I've not glued on the landing gear, because it would be nice to swap this out for the extended position, but I'll worry about that later. I've still got the headlights lamps still rotatable there, and I might just glue on the tail as well while I'm at it, so that doesn't need to come off. Right. Alright, to start off the painting, I'm going to give it a coat of Vallejo Surface Primer Black, and I've got it stuck to the end of a kebab stick here, which makes it look like I'm about to barbecue a dragonfly or something. Now the box doesn't actually suggest what colour to paint it, and as with the Harkonnen Ornithopter, researching the colour of these things is extremely difficult because they're usually covered in really murky lighting, lots of weathering, sand, dust. It's really hard to get a nice clear unfiltered picture of what colour these are. Now the model is kind of a very muted greyish green, very subtle olive drab type colour, and I did olive drab for the previous Ornithopter, so I'm going to go for something a little bit different this time. The Lego kit of this, or the Lego version of this kit, is this dark grey. No real greens in it at all. But I've decided I'm going to use Villeneuve Model Air IJA Light Grey Green. So it's a little bit of a hint of green, a bit of beige and grey, all mixed up, and we'll see how that looks. Alright, so there it is with the base coat down, and it's looking quite light at the moment, but it's going to be darkened up once the weathering starts going down. But before I start doing any of that, I'm going to apply this extensive decal sheet. So just decals for the cockpit glass and a couple of markings for the Atreides symbol there. And while I'm placing the decals, I'm just using a little bit of Microsol, which is a decal setting solution, which just helps the decal soften and settle into place. And now to seal in the base coat and the decals, I'm going to use just a coat of Vallejo's gloss varnish. And now with the gloss coat down, I'm going to start applying some pin washing. And for the wings and the undercarriage, I'm going to start using this Villeneuve light grey wash. Just going to apply it quite thick all over these parts, and then as it starts to dry and get a bit more tacky, then I'll just start manipulating it to form a bit more detailed weathering. But I just want to bring out a bit of definition in some of these pieces in all the recesses. So starting off with some of the more mechanical sections like the wings and the legs, I'm just going to start. I'm going to use this basic grey, which is light grey, but it actually comes out quite dark. But I prefer using this to medium or dark greys because they're quite harsh in contrast. And as you can see, as the wash is starting to dry, I can go back with a clean brush and just start tapping out areas where I want it to look more weathered and remove some of these spots where the wash has pulled a little bit. So it's quite easy to manipulate around once it starts drying up. And this way, using different washes and different colours, you can really start to build up some really nice textures and colours and layers. Which just makes this process quite fun, quite artistic. And it's a lot easier on these really small scale kits because you don't really need to spend a lot of time detailing areas and masking and painting bits when you can just use washes to achieve a lot of it, because it's such a small area to work with. So yeah, I'm just making the surface of these wings really beat up with the amount of beating they do in the sandy environment. Alright, so next up for the main body, I'm going to use Villeneuve Model Wash Oiled Earth, which has a really nice mix of greys and browns, just to get a bit of colour variation. Just stir up the pot a bit. So you can see there on the brush you've got browns, oranges, greys. So again, just going to apply it heavily all over the model. So this will start to change the base colour a little bit. And as you can see, after just a couple of washes, two different colours, just applied quite haphazardly, I've already got quite a really nice colour and texture going on. And now just using what's on the brush from cleaning up all around the body part, I'm just using it to add some streaks to the wings. Just going to quickly go over each one. And now just add a bit of streaking on the hull. And now that those two washes have had time to dry up, I'm now going to apply a light sand wash. So I've just mixed a couple of colours. I've got Vallejo Model Colour Sand Yellow and Vallejo Model Air Sand Beige, just whatever sandy colours that I had lying around. And I've mixed them together and diluted them with a bit of water just to create a nice very light wash consistency. Hopefully it's not too diluted, but I just want to start building up some sand colours in some of the recesses of the Ornithopter, just to indicate sand gathering up. Yeah, don't want to lay it on too thick. Just gradually build it up. Because the sand isn't going to be too thick on these since they travel quite fast. So just want to get it to where it's going to stick around in all the places that don't get a lot of airflow. And as before, as this is drying up, I can just manipulate it and move it around just to finish off where I want it. And this will also help just lighten up the overall tone of the colours. And so after a couple of applications of the sand wash, I'm pretty happy with how that's come out. Mainly on the body, but a little bit on the wings. It's probably a little bit unrealistic with how much sand is built up, but with these miniatures, I kind of like to exaggerate some of the details just to make everything pop out a little bit, being as it's such a small scale and you're looking at it from quite a distance away. And so the next step is to apply just a little touch of light rust wash. And this isn't really to indicate that the Ornithopter has a lot of actual rust. I just want a little bit of colour variation, a little bit of metal, dirt, sand, that sort of thing. So I'm just going to lightly dab it in some of these mechanical areas. I can't imagine they'd get too rusty on Arrakis, seeing as there's not that much rain and water. So yeah, it's a fine line between adding this colour and not making it look like rust, but we'll see how we go. I'm just leaving this stand on because it's easier to grab sometimes with it attached. Just makes a nice handy holding device. Now for the final bit of wash, Villeneuve Model Wash Dark Grey, just to reapply in some of those more recessed areas. So for example, these exhaust vents at the back. Just to help bring out a little bit more detail. And then around some of the legs. And now using just a tiny bit of acrylic thinner on the end of a pointed cotton bud, I'm just going to clean up some parts, especially where there's wash that's on the canopy. I can just push that back, wipe it off. And there's just a little bit of a mark here where the wash pulled a little bit, so I'm just going to bit of a wipe there. And now for the final finishing touch. Something I did on the last two Dune kits was applying some Tamiya Weathering Master pigments, specifically this burnt red one. And I'm going to just dab that here and there just to indicate the spice build-up from the sands of Dune. Again, it's probably a little bit too exaggerated, but it's just a nice little detail that I enjoyed putting on. And especially around the legs, where it's going to have most contact. Yeah, this is really awkward to hold and get on shot with all these wings everywhere. Where else? I think I'll put a little bit on the wings, just on the edges. And right on the front, on the nose, I think. Just a little bit. Just kind of reminds me of when you see bees that are covered in dusty pollen, because this is pretty insect-like. Okay, I think that'll do. Right, so that's all of the weathering done. And now just the last little bit of painting. I'm just going to paint on some yellow lamps that are beside the gun pod. First I'm just going to lay down some silver, and then go over the top with some transparent yellow. And now to finish it off and seal everything in, I'm going to give the model a coat of Villeneuve matte varnish. Alright, so there it is, all complete. And yeah, I'm really happy with how this came out. A lot of the details are really popping through there. All the different colours, all the different textures, the wash and the weathering. And yeah, it's probably a little bit too exaggerated and too much contrast compared to the real thing, but as I said, being such a small miniature kit, I do like the details to pop out a little bit more at this scale. I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for the 1/72 scale version of this in the future, because those look really fun to build. And these little kits were fun to build too. So that's all three of them done now. And yeah, it's a nice little quick project that doesn't involve a lot of investment. Just some real quick painting and weathering, and you can end up with a really nice looking miniature, which, although it's small size, does make quite a nice display piece with its wingspan. And the wings, I wish they were a little bit more poseable. I'm afraid twisting and turning these, they might just snap at the base because the ball sockets aren't quite loose enough, especially with all the paint around them. But folding them back is no problem. It's just manipulating the ball socket, twisting it and moving it up and down. Feels a little bit more risky, so I'm just going to leave it like that. But comparing it to the Harkonnen Ornithopter, I'm really pleased with how the colour difference came out, despite using a very similar colour palette and techniques. I did want the Harkonnen one to be a little bit more grungy and dark, and the Atreides one is a bit lighter. And yeah, they look quite nice together. And of course the Spice Harvester. This was a really fun kit to paint up and weather. Yeah, so just taking a closer look at some of the details. Yeah, get as close as I can. Yeah, the Atreides markings got a little bit obscured behind the weathering, but that's okay. And yeah, there's quite a bit of detail in there, despite it being such a spindly little aircraft. It's definitely a lot thinner and longer than this one. It's a bit curvy, a bit more curvy and chunky, and a bit shorter in length. And do I prefer the 6 wings or the 8 wings? I don't know. I think the 6 wing obviously looks better from the top, but from an angle, the 8 wings looks pretty sweet. But yeah, I think together they both look pretty good. Alright, so that's all of the Dune kits complete. Well, the miniature ones at least. I have seen the larger versions of these kits are now released, so definitely will keep an eye out for those, and yeah, perhaps we'll be building some up on the channel very soon. But yeah, I know there's been a bit of a gap between builds. It's been a bit of a crazy year. I moved back to Christchurch from Melbourne, started a new job, got a new flat, and yeah, life is just one of those things where it conspires against you, especially when making YouTube videos. But anyway, I'm happy that all 3 of these are done now, and hope you've enjoyed the video, and let me know what you think. So until next time, see ya.